Ahead of its Wednesday initial public offering, Arm is considering asking investors to up its valuation, sources told Reuters. Chipmaker considering raising its $47 to $51 price range for what could be the year's biggest IPO. And in an updated filing this morning, Instacart revealed it set an offer price range of $26 to $28 on the top end, aiming to secure up to $616 million in fresh capital. Now, during the pandemic, a red-hot venture fund raising market saw a flurry of valuation activity, but the Fed's historically aggressive interest rate hikes have put an end to that. There's hope among some investors that Arm and Instacart's impending IPOs will fuel a possible rebound in U.S. listing activities here. And in an interview with Yahoo Finance executive editor Brian Sozzi, Goldman Sachs CEO David Solomon called the market encouraging. Take a listen.
We are starting to see a pickup in activity. As you mentioned, there are some very significant IPOs that are in the market this week. The ARM IPO is progressing nicely, and I do believe that if these IPOs go well, that kind of creates a virtuous cycle of bringing some of the other IPOs that are in the wings waiting to market. And so I do see a pickup in capital markets activity during the course of the fall. I can't say that we'll get back to what normalized levels are, but we're really coming off of, zero activity.
And so even as we evaluate those words from Goldman Sachs CEO David Solomon, it's also with the evaluation of what's already come public to this point this year. It's been some very specific waiting to get out niche type of plays. Kava had good reception in the market, and there's reason to believe that Arm, for all of the big money that's been invested into it from some of the largest mega cap tech companies in the U.S. already, that it sure could have a warm welcoming by the street. But then there's also some tests that we could still be seeing and faced with some of the other IPOs that are even registered for this month.
Well, and of course, remember, even with ARM, even though if it's pricing shares at the top of the range was lower.
Yeah.
So, it's, yes, the market is opening back up, but it's a matter of at what price. So
right.
That is sort of the key here that we're talking about for all these companies. And everybody we've talked to has talked about sort of the circular nature of this, right? If one company goes public and then that goes well, then the other companies sort of follow suit. So that's kind of what we're watching here. And it's certainly not a return to the go-go days of 2021, or, where we saw a lot of demand and it didn't matter kind of the particulars of these companies.
Right.
It looks like investors are going to be more choosy here. And there are still a lot of companies. For all these, we're talking about two companies that
right.
are big. There's Klaviyo, too, which could come public this year. But, it's not a flood by any stretch.
No, and thus far, based on some of the data from Renaissance Capital, who tracks the U.S. IPO market, among IPOs that are above a $50 million market cap, because there are some small deals that still make their way to the market that come through, the largest industry that's been able to see the most IPOs come forward this year is industrials IPOs. So more than any other sector there. That's important to remember within this broader context, and just goes to show how even among some of those other sectors that are seeing companies make their foray into the public markets and listing shares, that they're being extremely judicious about the market that they are entering into, especially given some of the volatility that we had seen in August over the summer here. So now moving through that and getting to a period where hopefully as things start to settle a little bit more, this is where we'll see Arm and potentially Instacart making their way into the public markets here.